Joshua chapter 10. Why don't we go ahead and stand? We'll read just a few verses. Beginning at verse 9. Joshua therefore came upon them suddenly, having marched all night from Gilgal. So the Lord routed them before Israel, killed them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, chased them along the road that goes to Beth-horon, and struck them down as far as Azekah and Makkedah. And it happened as they fled before Israel and were on the descent of Beth-horon that the Lord cast down large hailstones from heaven on them as far as Azekah, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than the children of Israel killed with the sword. Then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon." So the sun stood still and the moon stopped, till the people had revenge upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. And there has been no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. The Israelites foolishly, presumptuously made a binding agreement with the Gibeonites when they were fooled into believing that they were a nation that had come from afar. It took only 3 days to discover the truth, and there was now an entire area that was off limits to them because of their binding oath. But the story continues as it always does. One poor decision in our lives often causes us to be on the hook for much more than we initially imagined. Thankfully, chapter 10 provides us with a wonderful illustration of hope and the efficiency of God, who meets his people with power in ways that they could not have expected, even in spite of using that mistake. In spite of that mistake, God uses it for a powerful illustration that we'll see here today. So let's look here at verse 1. Now it came to pass that Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it. As he had done to Jericho and its king, so he had done to Ai and its king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, that they feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were mighty. Therefore Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon, saying, "Come up to me and help me, that we may attack Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the children of Israel." Therefore the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered together and went up, they and all their armies, encamped before Gibeon, and made war against it. So Joshua here details a sketch that had been given in chapter 9. Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, is a centerpiece of this anti-Israel coalition. He's responsible for organizing this group of nations to come up against the people of Israel. But before he could come up against them, Gibeon makes peace with the enemy, which spells bad news for Adonizedek, who saw Gibeon as a mighty city, filled with mighty men. It was bigger and more important than Ai. Joshua describes it, when he does, as a royal city, a noble city. In its long history, the type of men that came from Gibeon were mighty men. Not men who were given to fear, not men who would kind of go in peace to somebody who was coming their way. Their peace with God's people made them targets. And so now they scrap the plan to go against Israel, and they come up against Gibeon. Verse 6, and the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua at the camp at Gilgal, saying, "Do not forsake your servants. Come up to us quickly. Save us and help us, for all the kings of the Amorites who dwell in the mountains have gathered together against us." So the non-aggression pact that Israel swore also carried a provision for their protection as well. Come quickly and save us, the message went out, probably by some writer in the night. Gibeon was in a bad way, surrounded and outnumbered. Their only hope is that Joshua will come and save them. Verse 7, so Joshua ascended from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not fear them, for I have delivered them into your hand. Not a man of them shall stand before you." Joshua therefore came upon them suddenly, having marched all night from Gilgal. So the Lord routed them before Israel, killed them with a great slaughter at Gibeon, chased them along the road that goes to Beth-horon, and struck them down as far as Azekah and Makkedah. And it happened as they fled before Israel and were on the descent of Beth-horon, that the Lord cast down large hailstones from heaven on them as far as Azekah, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than the children of Israel killed with the sword. Now, when Joshua got this call on the bat phone, I wonder if he hesitated at all. To his credit, it doesn't seem so. Joshua heard the news and ascended from Gilgal with all the troops. Now, Joshua is doing the right thing here, almost instinctually. It's settled in his mind. He doesn't have to ask. He doesn't have to consider it. He knows that his people have made an oath, and he is living by his word. Now, this is not a good time for this. This is not a good thing that's going on in terms of the practicality. It's nighttime. It's not necessarily a time that you want to be going out and doing something, much less going out on a military offensive. But here he is doing the right thing, and instantly. I pray we would be wise to see that he didn't think at that moment, it's not convenient, so maybe I'm not going to do it. It's not something that we didn't iron out that we would defend them. He stands up and he gets the people going. He's instant in his obedience. That's something that always impresses me about the men of God in the Bible. When they're called to do something difficult, the next available moment in the passage, they get up and they do it. That is the sign of true spirituality. Now, today we tend to think of true spirituality in terms of some outward show of worship or some kind of, appearance on our face. Oh, look how godly they are. As if there's a halo that's coming up over their head. The true test of true spirituality, of a heart that's really been touched by God, is one that's instant in obedience. When they know what the right thing is to do, they do it, despite how they feel about it. Now, you might point out, like I would, this agreement that they made with Gibeon was based on fraud. These guys lied to the Israelites. The Gibeonites had not been truthful, and that's true. They were not truthful. But what was also true was that the Israelites swore by their God that they would be true. And that doesn't change. It's always better to honor the Lord by doing what we said we would do, holding up our part of the bargain. I know that when conditions are favorable, it's much easier to hold on to our commitments. When it feels good, when it's convenient, when there's reciprocity, when someone on the other side of the agreement is holding up their side of the agreement. It's much easier, but we have to remember that that's not the model we've been given. Remember when Jesus died for you. Does it say that he died when you were so wonderful and you were so responsive to him? When you loved him with all your heart and you were so spiritual and such a catch? Surprise, we're not a great catch now. No, he died while we were yet sinners, hostile against him, hating him. So husbands, it's honorable to love your wife before she respects you. In fact, she might respect you more if you loved her more. And ladies, it's right for you. It blesses God when you're submissive to your husband before he loves you. Employees, it's a godly heart that causes you to work well without your boss being a model employer. You made a vow. You said you would do something. And if anything, do it unto the Lord. Don't do it unto your employer, your husband, your wife. Act the way you're supposed to act and say, God, this is my sacrifice, my offering, my faith unto you. That blesses God. That's maturity. That's spirituality. That's living in the right way. I'm thinking even this morning we're missing somebody in our fellowship who has been put under the yoke of a master who I frankly would like to go find and choke out. And he goes faithfully to work every day. He doesn't complain. It's fantastic. I would complain. I would fight. In fact, I'm complaining for him right now, kind of. But I love that he always is so diligent to work hard and be that guy. And no matter what's going on the other side, he's fulfilling his part. That's a true Christian walk. That's a mature Christian walk. That dogged determination to honor God does not keep Joshua from contemplating the issues at hand. It doesn't mean that we're going to do these things and then kind of go, well, Lord, if I do it, is anything going to happen? I mean, he's got the human idea. He recognizes the human danger. There are 5 very aggressive, hostile armies coming to get Gibeon. He has cause for concern. And I love this, is as he's going. You see, a lot of people love to kind of wait until God gives the go-ahead. A lot of people want to say, I'll do what you want me to do, but you need to tell me that I'm going to be victorious. Joshua says, and this is a true Christian, I'm going to walk, and then he's going to show me. Because we obey, and then we are assured. People, if you're waiting for assurance to do the right thing, it's never going to come. But as you obey, as he's walking, as the group is marching, that's when God speaks. And he graciously says, Joshua, don't worry, man. Yeah, I've got these guys. They're delivered into your hands. Not one man is going to stand in front of you. Now, how would that prompt you to act? You're already going. You're already on your way. Well, I hope it would cause you to act like him. He marched the whole night. He went headlong straight into the night, quickly and surprisingly coming against their enemies. But I want you to note something. Maybe we wouldn't know this except for the help of commentators, people who have been to Israel, have been to this part of the world. First of all, notice it's an all-night march. It's an all-night march. This is not during the day when they're daisy fresh, or they've had their eggs and bacon. They haven't had haven't had a good night's sleep. Everyone hasn't done their calisthenics. This is an all-night journey. No sleep. For some of us, we believe that is no sleep. We believe that's a demonic attack. Right? Those that have newborns. It's not a demonic attack. It's your child. It's just, that's the way it is. I know. I was there. I've been there too. But they were up all night marching. I don't know if you've ever been up all night, if you've ever pulled an all-nighter. That is a very difficult thing, especially as you get older. Remember, Joshua at this time, probably in his 60s. He's no spring chicken. But the other part that we don't know about this is that not only was it all night, but it was uphill the entire way. Now, following the Lord, even when you know it's the right thing to do, and even though that you know the end will be for your betterment, doesn't mean the road will be smooth or even downhill. We are being sold a poor version of Christianity today. People who believe, I'm just going to come to Jesus and the road's going to be smooth, and it's going to be smooth sailing from there. And there's a reason why there are so many discouraged and down and out Christians about their walk, because they came into this thing thinking, if I come to Jesus and everything's going to go right, and it's going to be easy. Wrong. Not the way it really is. Your best life will never be now. Never. And if it is, you should worry. It's an uphill climb, and it's an all-night climb. When they arrived, thankfully, their enemies were more surprised than they were tired, because they came upon their enemies by surprise, and the last remnants fled before the people of Israel, who still were running after them, chasing them into the woods as they went. Now, how exhausting would that have been? After this whole day, so they marched the whole night, they fought the combined force of 5 heathen armies all day. Now they are chasing what is left of their defeated foes into this kind of wooded area. Does that sound like your day recently? I mean, it's okay, I was up all night, and then all day I fought with those kids, or I fought with that employer, or I fought with that whatever. And then I come home and it's like more. It just never ends. Surely we've had these kind of days. How exhausting they must have just felt that. How can I go any further? And they had the heart for it. They kept going out after their enemies, chasing them, wanting to catch the remnant. But they were coming up short, I think. I think they just couldn't do it anymore. They were running, but man, their legs were falling out from underneath them. Their spirit was willing, but their flesh was caving in. According to scholars, this area, this road, now they had beaten them down onto the road to Beth Oron. Beth Oron is up here like this, so it kind of there's this road that goes up like this. It skirts the area where they were at. So they'd beaten them down this way. They got on this road in lower Beth Oron, and then they're going to come up this way. And that's why you see the order of the cities, Makkedah, Azekah, and whatnot. So the area that this road was on, don't think a road like our freeways. Think of a road that just is a ragged type of a area that's clear to use per se, but it's rocky and there's, it's not quite even, whatever else. So these guys are fleeing away on this road, and Israel can't get all the army in there, and they're tired. So they're just like, what are we going to do here? Maybe you've come to the end of your rope. God, I'm doing all that I can do. I have gone as far as I can go. I have held on to this thing as long as I can, as tightly as I can. And you think, oh man, now I'm going to lose the battle because I can't go any further. That's the beautiful thing about this. Because they've come to the end of their rope physically. They're limited by the terrain militarily. So God offers his assistance divinely. I love this. Because right when they stopped running, I can just imagine they're huffing and puffing. Their legs can't carry them any longer. And all of a sudden, hailstones start to come down on their enemies. Hailstones. Now, you might say, that's no miracle. I've seen hailstones. In fact, this last week I was watching a video of a lake somewhere out in Chicago. And we were watching how somehow the lake, as it was freezing, the water would come up over the top of these deposits and whatnot, and they would roll into like a big ball. And we're talking like two sizes, the size of two bowling balls into one. And I was just thinking, man, if one of those had hit somebody, they'd be toast. Just one of them would take 4 or 5 guys out. So you might think, well, that's no miracle. Big deal. We've seen hailstorms. We've been part of them. I've been hit by hail. I've been hit by it. Not huge stones, but I've been hit by hail. Of course, I'm a little more rugged than these guys. But, anyway, I've been hit by hail. But these guys, it's not about the miracle of the phenomena. It's about the timing and the specificity of the target. Only the bad guys were taken out by this hail. Only the enemies were brought down. What's happened here? God has added his supernatural power to their human effort. God has made up for the part they couldn't do. That's powerful. That's an important moment. But wait, as Ron Popeil would say, there's more. Verse 12, then Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the people had revenge upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Asher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and did not hasten to go down for about a whole day. And there has been no day like that before it or after it, that the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. And Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. Now, first of all, notice that this isn't a private prayer. If I were to utter this to the Lord, I would be sure that it was just between me and him. Lord, let the sun stand still. What? No, this was in front of all of Israel. All the children of Israel heard this. What's he asking for? He's asking for something that's well beyond his control. There is nothing he can do about the day he's been given. There's nothing he can do about the sun or the moon. Jesus tells us, why do you worry about stuff? You can't add one day to your life by worrying. Oh, but we think we can. Some of us in here, you can't add one hair to your head, but you've tried, you worried. Your Lord won, and you found that they just all go. Those who are bald, we know how much you worry. It's written right there. But anyway, so the whole thing is you can't add. You can't do anything about certain things. It's outside of the realm of what you can do. So what does Joshua do? Lord, I need you to do what only you can do. I need you to do what only you have the ability to do. I love this. He says, wow, how audacious. Lord, I need the sun to stand still today. I need the moon to stay right over where it's at, over in Ajalon City, 15 miles to the west. So what happened? The sun and the moon held their positions. In fact, verse 13 says it matter-of-factly. He asked, so the sun stood still and the moon stopped. What do you think was going to happen? You know? There's no attempt to describe it. Joshua doesn't say, well, then the Lord did some mathematical equations and he stopped the thing from happening. Doesn't explain it. Simply describes that these celestial bodies stopped and that the people had time to take revenge for God's sake. Now, apart from this witness, these Israelis saw it, Joshua saw it, we have the veracity of their account, but there's also an extra biblical account from this book of Jasher. It's not the first time, or it is the first time this book is mentioned, but it's not the last. Jasher is also mentioned in 2 Samuel 1:18. And the mention of this book lets the readers know that this was not just some religious happening. This wasn't just something that they all in some religious fervor saw by themselves. Jasher wrote about it, and though it has not survived, that book is not with us today. It talked about this miracle, confirming that this is something that did in fact happen. Now, regarding the actual miracle, there are myriads of theories throughout the years that people have cited as specific proofs for this miracle. Frankly, no pun intended, in the end, they don't satisfy, and they contradict one another. There are things that have supposedly been said and proved about this that kind of falls short. Now, that doesn't mean this miracle did not occur. Don't let that take the steam out of your engine. That it occurred is certain. That much is sure. What it does mean here that we don't know is that we currently lack the ability to explain it further. But don't worry, here's what happens all the time. Science always catches up with the Bible. Always. And you can tell your friend that doesn't believe these things, tell him to pray to science. He'll figure it out. But that's not the way it's going to work, is it? Because later on, science will answer the question. And certainly that's the case here. But the principle's this. Israel's been fighting the Lord's battle. They've been doing it the Lord's way. They've been doing what He wants done. And all that can happen at that time when you're committed to doing what God wants in your life, when your marriage, in your employee, in your neighborhood, when you are working for the Lord, you'll find that even though you come to the end of your rope, God has resource for you. It goes well beyond what you can do and what only He can do. There are times in your Christian life, if you've not experienced it yet, you will, where you just cannot do anymore. You have nothing more to give. You have no idea how to deal with this or that circumstance. That's when God fights for you with all that heaven has. That's the agreement that you Gibeonites have with Joshua. God works for you. Now, how many times have you seen this happen? You've done everything you know how to do, and you are just done with the type of person that you're dealing with. And you think there is nothing that can move this person. I've tried all the things. I've read all the books. I've talked to all the Christians. I've done all the right things. I've been amicable. I've been nice. I've gone in the right way through the chain of command. I've done all that I can do. And you're finally like, Lord, I give up. You go home, you're like, I'm just resigned to this life for the rest of my life. And the next day, that person comes to you and says, you know what? Last night I had an epiphany. I should pay you more. I should love you more. God spoke to me, and I realized I've been a jerk. And you know what's funny is you had nothing to do with it. Because God has resource that you could never touch. But He can. I know I'm maybe stepping on some toes. There are not many toes to step on today, but I'm just going to try and hit everyone's feet. There's some worldliness in us when we're always trying to manipulate things, whether it's conversations or, I've been around people who, and they're well-meaning, this person really needs to hear this message. So they'll make a CD of it and make sure it gets in their car somehow. Or, the first thing they turn on the TV and there's the video blaring that person. Let me just let you know that sometimes that works. Maybe God will use it, but I'll tell you what happens more often than not. That person will go, you know what? This guy is really getting on my nerves by trying to use all this manipulation. I wish they'd stop trying to control me. You know what? The Holy Spirit is better at it than you are. If I just resign that person, that situation, that issue to prayer, if I would pray about it 5 times more than I complain about it, I might see God do something that He would do better than I could do. And when he does it permanent. I love that it says that day he killed more than any sword. He can do way more than you can do with your sword. I love that. I'm just thinking of this right now. I probably shouldn't say it, but I will. I'm just that dumb. The night that Peter, they're in the Garden of Gethsemane, and they had earlier had a discussion about how many swords they needed. And they ended up only having 2, and Jesus said, that's enough. Because he knew they were fishermen, they weren't swordsmen. And Peter proved it later on by missing a guy's entire body and hitting just his ear. He hit this guy named Malchus right in the ear, cut his ear off, which Jesus then took and put it right back on. What was amazing about that story? Earlier in the night, Jesus had said, when the crowd had come, all he said, they said, who are you looking for? And Jesus said, I am. The whole crowd fell. Jesus could have simply said 2 words, and he did, and stopped them. Way more than Peter's sword could have done. God's Spirit is way more effective than your manipulation, than your control. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. Verse 16. But these kings had fled and hidden themselves in the cave of Makkedah. And it was told Joshua, saying, the 5 kings have been found in the cave of Makkedah. So Joshua said, roll large stones against the mouth of the cave and set men by it to guard them. And do not stay there yourselves, but pursue your enemies and attack their rear guard. Do not allow them to enter their cities, for the Lord your God has delivered them into your hand. Then it happened, while Joshua and the children of Israel made an end of slaying them with a very great slaughter till they had finished, that those who escaped entered fortified cities, and all the people returned to the camp to Joshua at Makkedah in peace. No one moved his tongue against any of the children of Israel. And Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring out those 5 kings to me from the cave. And they did so, and brought out those 5 kings to him from the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon. God had delivered the people, the armies, and their kings into the people's hands. And Joshua trapped them in these caves and kept them there until the rest of the work was finished. When the time was right, the kings were brought out. And notice that Adonai-Zedek, the guy who started this whole thing, is now he's the one who began this aggression against the Lord. Now he's being led out. This is always going to be the story about those who oppose God. Always. It may seem that they have the upper hand. It may seem that somehow they are the ones that are the aggressors, and they will finally be the one to take God down. Wrong. Someone persists in this, they're going to end in the same way that Adonai-Zedek was. Hopeless, defeated, and lost. Verse 24. So it was when they brought out those kings to Joshua that Joshua called for all the men of Israel and said to the captains of the men of war who went with him, come near, put your feet on the necks of these kings. And they drew near and put their feet on their necks. Then Joshua said to them, do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. Be strong and of good courage, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies against whom you fight. And afterward Joshua struck them and killed them and hanged them on 5 trees, and they were hanging on the trees until evening. So it was at the time of the going down of the sun that Joshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees, cast them into the cave where they had been hidden, and laid large stones against the cave's mouth, which remain until, again, this very day. What we are witnessing here is called a subjugation ceremony. In ancient times, when a rival king was defeated, this was the final action that was taken against them. Joshua's army has put down these 5 rival kings, and now these kings were to bow to these men. And notice that Joshua invites the captains to come and put their feet on their necks. This is not a chiropractic adjustment. That's not what's going on here. These men had ruled over kingdoms and had been accustomed to people bowing before them. Now, the humiliation of them sitting there defeated at the very feet of these men, not the greatest men, but the captains. Joshua's the general, but he invites his captains to come and participate in this, letting them know that this was what was in front of them. God will do this for you against all your enemies. Remember what this feels like, he says. God has given Joshua the day. He's given them the victory, but here's what Joshua does. He shares his glory and lets them experience the victory. Now, in the same way, this is what Jesus does for us. He's won the victory, but he allows us to put our feet on our enemies' necks. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're running from our enemies. Pride. We're running from the sin, the lust, the deals that we have to deal with. But he says, I want you to put your feet on them. I love that. Too often, Christians allow their fears to take over their minds. They just entertain all fear and they're broken underneath it. But we always have a choice. We always have a choice to say when that fear creeps in, Lord, it belongs to you. Lord, it's yours. We have to do that immediately and repeatedly until it's really his. Because here's what I do. Lord, here's my fear. Here's my issue. Here's the thing that I've been running from. I'm not putting my foot on its neck. Here's the thing I've been running from. Let me take it back. We need to give it to the Lord. He tells them that they are to be strong. These are the type of people God is calling. If you're going to be victorious, this is what's got to happen. Strong. You need to be firm, established in your path. There can't be wishy-washiness about you. If you're going to be victorious, you have to run one way. You have to fight one way with all your heart, with all that you have every day of your life. If you let go for a minute, you will be overcome. I'm surprised at how often we buy into this concept. Oh, I've done enough. No, you haven't. When you're dead and gone, you're retired. That's the only time. Before then, you better strap on and be ready to go. Every day, be strong, firm, of good courage. Christians need to be brave and bold. Positively, they were to be strong, firm, established, and of good courage. Speaking of bravery and boldness, these are necessary attitudes for all Christians who would see victory in their lives. For the people of God, those who would allow the Lord to move them in this way will see the Lord fight for them, and they'll see victory. Joshua killed these kings, hung them up for a day, then buried them in the same cave they hid in. Let's read the rest of this. Joshua 10:28. On that day, Joshua took Makkedah, struck it and its king with the edge of his sword. He utterly destroyed them, all the people who were in it. He let none remain. He also did to the king of Makkedah as he'd done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua passed from Makkedah and all Israel with him to Libnah. They fought against Libnah, and the Lord also delivered it and its king into the hand of Israel. He struck it and all the people who were in it with the edge of the sword. He let none remain, but did to its king as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua passed from Libnah and all Israel with him to Lachish, and they encamped against it and fought against it. And the Lord delivered Lachish into the hand of Israel, who took it on the second day and struck it, and all the people who were with it, but with the edge of the sword, according to all that he had done to Libnah. Then Horam, king of Gezer, came up to help, and Lachish, and Joshua struck him and his people until he left none remaining. From Lachish, Joshua passed to Eglon, and all Israel with him, and they encamped against it and fought against it. They took it on that day and struck it with the edge of the sword. All the people who were in it, he utterly destroyed that day, according to all he had done to Lachish. Verse 36. So Joshua went from Eglon and all Israel with him to Hebron. They fought against it. They took it and struck it with the edge of the sword, its king, all its cities, and all the people who were in it. He left none remaining, according to all that he'd done to Eglon, but utterly destroyed it and all the people who were in it. Then Joshua returned and all Israel with him to Debir, and they fought against it. And he took it and its king and all its cities. They struck them with the edge of the sword and utterly destroyed all the people who were in it. He left none remaining. As he had done to Hebron, so he did to Debir and its king, as he had done also to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered all the land, the mountain country, and the south, and the lowland, and the wilderness slopes, and all their kings. He left none remaining, but utterly destroyed all that breathed, as the Lord God had commanded. And Joshua conquered them from Kadesh Barnea as far as Gaza, and all the country of Goshen, even as far as Gibeon. All these kings and all their land Joshua took at one time, because the Lord fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned and all Israel with him to camp at Gilgal. Now I know that was a long section, and I appreciate your patience. This section deals with the conquest of the south, We're not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want you to notice a few details. His campaigns, they all ended the same way. Victory. He left none remain. Nobody could stand up and come and threaten the people of Israel again. He was thorough. There comes a time in your Christian walk when you're okay with that king maybe living in the cave, hiding out somewhere, and you got to kill him. You got to be thorough. There can be nothing that stands to come back and threaten you as a person. And whoever came to help, notice that God says, hey, whoever's going to help them is going to find themselves defeated, just like you defeated everybody else. But what I want us to see, and this is the final point, God turned Israel's sinful presumption into a rout that saw 5 kings dethroned in one event. God in his providence saw their mistake, and by his grace, this is not presumption. This is not like, okay, I'm going to act the wrong way and God's got to bless me anyway. You're going to find yourself in quite a hole and you're not going to enjoy it. But their sinful presumption, God saw it and says, you know what? I'm going to let this be a catalyzing moment where I'm going to allow them to take all of these cities at one time. I'm going to let it be efficient. When Israel did what was told to them and act in line with his will, he met them with supernatural power and did for them what they could not have done. Israel would have been happy with one victory. They'd have been happy to defeat the 5 kings at Gibeon. And this is the part that I love for you. You who are stuck in some kind of agreement that you've made. You know that you've got to do the right thing before God. You know you don't want to do the right thing before God, but you do. You stand up and you do the right thing. You go and forward, and all I want is this one victory. And look at what happens. When they were obedient with just the one thing, God goes, I'll give you that one victory, but I'm going to open up the whole area because the whole thing's going to be yours. That one victory that you'd be happy with. I'd just be happy if he treated me better. I'd just be happy if I got a raise. I'd just be happy if he loved me. I'd just be happy, whatever it is. God's going, no, I've got so much more that your obedience just opens the door for. They could never have known that by holding to their word, by going and doing what was just a simple act of obedience on their part, they could not have known that that would have been the catalyzing thing that would open up an entire area for their domination. He's not changed at all. God wants you to experience this. He wants you to put your feet on the neck of your opponent, your issue in your life, whether it be your sin, that person that you're struggling with, that stubborn employer, stubborn spouse, situation. He wants you to be able to put your foot on the neck of that thing. He invites you to be strong and courageous and trust him that he's not going to allow you to lose. And when you walk forward in obedience, you may think it's just about that one thing. But believe me, there's so much more he wants to open in front of you. There's more territory, but your obedience is the thing that opens that. And when you're obedient, you'll see it happen. Let's pray.